friends, I'm 6 Billiam, and we've spent the last couple of weeks going through 105 HHN Orlando haunts with the help of our scaredy cats. And Angie Boy Chino is gonna help us count down the best 30 of the last 13 years. If you're excited for this year's event, make sure you do stick around because I'll be pointing out some scenes or effects that I think might make a return. I've never felt older than I do at this current moment, which I guess is technically how time works. But anyways, let's get to it. Nevermore, The Madness of Poe is only HHN 21's second haunt on this list, and it begs the question why we don't get more literary haunt adaptations, essentially creating the best of both an IP and an original haunt. Succeeding not only due to the outside-of-the-box portrayals of some of Poe's craziest works, like the enclosed, repeating scene of the Telltale Heart, but because the author himself was inserted almost as a narrator, a guide through a massive mansion where each room brought different horrors. Those classic tales all got their due with a very thin line between reality and insanity, and focusing on the emotion and subtext of each work created a dreary, emotionally charged haunt. Puppet theater, captive audience, if only the haunt could have lived up to the hype of that grand facade. Don't get me wrong, this is still a phenomenal haunt with some of the best scares that I've gotten in years. But nearly every one of those phenomenal scenes contained a trick or a tactic that was fairly common at HHN, just wrapped up in a more atmospheric package. The aura of familiarity didn't make these scenes any less effective, and Universal really nailed the costuming and mask work here. These faces were honestly the real nightmare fuel of the event. But for all of the next level theatrics and references and spine-chilling ambiance, it sucks when you're waiting to see the culmination of all of that tension and the haunt just ends. The Walking Dead, The End of the Line, really should have been the curtain call for this series. Even a decade later, it's still the longest haunt that Universal has ever crafted, and maybe the only time a soundstage haunt has had an outdoor facade and outdoor finale. Well, it was a bit uneven, with a sneak preview of the quality of the preceding haunts in the series. The End of the Line also contains some of the most insane and bombastic sets. There's just no recreating scenes as massive as the supermarket helicopter crash, or the strobe and mirror-filled forest, which also set the record for the number of characters in a single scene. In the end, the good outweighed the bad, but at least Orlando's first Uber haunt was something worth remembering. Oh hey, it's me again. If you want to see me actually build a good haunted house for once, instead of talking smack about everyone else's, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoy. Just because the first haunt in a series isn't great doesn't mean there shouldn't be a shot for redemption, and I'm glad American Horror Story continued on and rectified all of the mistakes of its predecessor. Gone were the plentiful, cramped story beats, and instead large and spacious sets oozing with detail showcased a handful of the most memorable set pieces in each season without losing any of the main story threads. When I say I want blockbuster haunts at HHN, this is what I mean. A haunt that completely immerses us in the story and themes of the property without feeling like a knockoff of the tired formula that's seen year after year. I'm glad they stopped American Horror Story at number 2 because I don't think HHN would have been able to top this. Jack Presents Monsters and Mayhem ranks higher than its fellow mashup haunts because Jack understood the assignment, celebrating the old without staying stuck in the past. It can be a pretty tough ask to find the perfect bridge between nostalgic and new and exciting, but Monsters and Mayhem brought back just enough perfect scenes and scattered in tons of new interpretations. I mean, that Universal Monsters section was better than the whole 2019 haunt. But Jack didn't forget to put an emphasis on the mayhem part, mixing and matching unlikely properties that spilled into each other and deftly switching between crazy comedy and subdued horror to create a memorable experience even without the nostalgia glasses. Also, one of these dudes whispered "D's nuts" in my ear, and I still think about it to this day. Checking in for our HHN 32 spec, Dueling Dragons has the chance to feature similar types of architecture as Nevermore, The Madness of Poe, and Puppet Theater may have similar vibes to what the Opera House could look like in Universal Monsters Unmasked. I'd expect The Last of Us to have the same giant, crumbling architecture as The Walking Dead and make use of this trolley effect again. I'm also looking forward to puppetry effects like this for Chucky himself in Ultimate Kill Count. Last year's Fiesta de Chupacabras was the definition of a top-tier haunt in my book. Moving components in every single scene, visceral puppet and effect work, and so much atmosphere and eye candy that you could never be sure where the scares would come from. I still love those capybaras to death no matter what anyone says. And few haunts have nailed the feeling of being mercilessly stalked like this. Except for maybe the first 2 Halloween haunts. While sequel Hell Comes to Haddonfield may appear a bit earlier on this list, it contained the best Michael Myers scene I've ever experienced. Police sirens flashing and wailing as Mikey disappears into the night. Or does he? And how do you follow up one of the most adrenaline-pumping scenes ever? Mikey, why are you in the dumpster? Jesus Christ, that was so loud! The natural sounds of Mikey's ruthless carnage were so much more riveting than simply hearing John Carpenter's score every single time he popped out. Halloween was never this scary again, or this unintentionally funny. If Mikey could have kept this momentum, I wouldn't have made a whole video about how they turned him into a laughingstock. But even Mikey's second greatest appearance was child's play compared to Insidious. Swapping the slasher for the supernatural, the jump scares were plentiful and they were effective. Running from all kinds of grotesque ghosts with horrifying expressions burned into their faces is a whole different type of fear that sticks with you long after the jump scares have left. The ever-present threat of childhood innocence helped create an even more disturbing atmosphere, and hearing Tiptoe Through the Tulips while frolicking through the lipstick-faced demon's lair still remains one of my favorite HHN memories ever. A truly harrowing haunt with spooks galore, and my apartment that I moved into just weeks after the event ended had the same creepy, ugly green color that filled this haunt. I guess the movie tagline didn't lie. Tomb of the Ancients, which is also coincidentally the name of my in-laws' house, managed to create a tense, claustrophobic maze with a lot of low ceilings, which aren't common in HHN haunts. Hidden behind the lush scenery were air cannons and moving floors galore, while magnificently costumed creatures littered the tombs, including a crazy Stiltwalker scare. Iron Gwazi even made an appearance 5 years early. While maybe a bit more thrilling than terror-inducing, it was nice to finally see a proper Indiana Jones-style adventure at HHN.
Don't tell me that wasn't big fun.
Few have replicated the dreadful atmosphere, and even last year's Legends Collide couldn't craft a better triple scare than that awesome rune scene. Based off the 2015 film, Krampus, which still remains the best haunt of 2016 for all you American Horror Story simps, expertly subverted expectations to create a haunt that was more playful than scary, yet still crafted incredibly tense scenes. Sure, there was comedy, but you were never quite sure if Krampus was real or just a distraction from his mischievous minions, and gazing into his cold, dead eyes was certainly a spine-chilling misdirect. I was reminded of how much fun it was to be scared in a haunted house, and those little transitions conveyed so much story in so little space. Christmas and Halloween go together better than milk and cookies, yet Krampus still managed to elevate the perfect combo. Back to HHN 32 spec, maybe we'll get some low ceilings like Tomb of the Ancients and Dueling Dragons, and I'm hoping Stranger Things has some similar supernatural vibes to Insidious. We should get some unexpected Chucky scares like Dumpster Mikey and Halloween, and maybe the silhouette work of Fiesta de Chupacabras and Yeti Campground Kills. Moist. That's the word I would use to describe AVP, Alien vs. Predator. Steam, water droplets, sweat and saliva everywhere. Honestly, it just felt like an average night at HHN. Universal really did an exceptional job of selling the feeling of being trapped in this humid laboratory that was under siege. And if you thought An American Werewolf in London had the best puppetry around, haha, think again. There's facehuggers everywhere, and you think you know where the xenomorphs are? Nope, you're wrong. They're coming from the freaking ceiling, or they're trying to bite your ankles as you're crawling out the exit. But the Predator's gotta be easy to find, right? Well, yes, but also no. Surprise! An unrelenting assault from beginning to end, except for a brief moment of unsuspecting brevity during the hatching room, AVP set the bar incredibly high for creature features for years to come. And the same could be said for 2011's The Thing. The effects were big, but the costumes were bigger. I wish there was more to show you of this beast in action, but just know that The Thing never disappointed as an IP, and this is #1 on my list of haunts I wish I could revisit. Alright folks, just throw your rotten fruit at me now, because the Wicked Growth Realm of the Pumpkin doesn't crack my top 10. But throughout the first half, it came so close. That astounding facade inside the tent, the sense of dread as the radio broadcasts in the background, the incredible creature design and unexpected scares from every corner, the enclosed bridge, and my goodness, the cinematic wonder of the Grim Reaper snatching us up in the graveyard. This was my #1 haunt of all time. Until we got into the woods. Previously, the atmosphere was so rich you could feel it envelop every sense. Almost a tangible feeling of the Halloween spirit that flowed through each and every scene. And then it was just gone in an instant. The environment stopped being as lush and inventive, and the Witch's Hut did have a lot of cool props, but it was literally the same scene as the Little Mermaid attraction at Magic Kingdom. And to be honest, I felt like I could have experienced the back half of Wicked Growth at nearly any Halloween event in the country. This truly was a love letter to the Halloween season in every single sense, but the Pumpkin Lord just couldn't stick the landing. To me, Dead End is pretty much the epitome of what Halloween Horror Nights is. Taking your Halloween staples and presenting them in a way that no one has ever seen before. For all you kiddos out there, this was basically Graveyard Games 1.0. Dumb kids make fun of ghosts and reap the consequences. And just like in that haunt, Dead End was a special effects extravaganza that managed to be truly surprising and very scary. Take a look at this empty hallway. What do you think is gonna happen? Yeah, all those tricks you thought you'd seen before, you'd never seen them like this. These spirits clearly didn't rest in peace and brought new life into a familiar story, pushing Dead End to the extreme. 2011's The Forsaken, while not as scary as most, is likely my favorite haunt from a scenic standpoint. Massive and detailed quarters filled with the glowing, murky Forsaken, with notably many more mannequins than actual actors, and I actually really enjoyed their ominous glowing eyes. Really, I just want to show you guys the lights on pictures of how beautiful these sets are. And while it was notable for not having a facade, this mid-haunt courtyard is easily HHN's crowning achievement. Preceded by a tunnel under the bodies of hanged soldiers, this reveal is simply stunning, only amplified by the overpowering wind and rain effects. From there we get the classic slanted floor in the bowels of the ship, and not too much else, but I doubt that any haunted house in the country will be able to craft a more spectacular scene than this. For the final spec update, I could see Dead End's spinning tunnel returning in the Darkest Deal, and Dueling Dragons creating some more detailed forest sets that feel similar to those in Wicked Growth. And I'm also hoping for a massive mid-haunt reveal like in The Forsaken. Next episode, we'll tackle the 15 best haunts of HHN Orlando, and since I already know I'm gonna catch some hate, I've got a shield prepared. Anyways, don't forget that a small act of kindness can make a big difference in the world, and you guys have been so gracious to me recently, so thank you so much. I appreciate all of your support, and until next time, go out there and make the world a better place. This is 6 Billion, signing off.